Hello, Nicole Mashburn again, and today we're going to talk about the requirements of life, or the things that you need in order to survive and to grow and to repair yourself and basically function. The first thing we're going to talk about are the 5 survival needs. So you have to have these 5 things in order to live. The first one are your nutrients or food. You have to have these chemicals that we would use, like sugars, which are carbohydrates, fats, proteins, minerals, things like vitamins, vitamin C. These are things that you have to have in order for us to make energy and to build cells and to repair ourselves. We have to have food. We have to have nutrition. We also have to have oxygen. Okay, remember the chemical symbol? If you haven't learned this yet, the chemical symbol for oxygen is O. And so you may see me write O sometimes. That just means oxygen. And oxygen is basically what we breathe in. Okay, so we breathe in oxygen, we blow out CO2. And we don't breathe to get oxygen necessarily. We want the oxygen, but the reason we want the oxygen is we need it to make energy. Okay, so we're going to talk about ATP a little later on, but that's basically the energy that our bodies use to function. And you'll learn a lot about that when we talk about muscle contraction and the use of ATP when we actually learn how the muscles contract. You also need water. And water is the most abundant chemical in the body. Most of our body weight, over half our body weight, is water, and it's the site of our chemical reactions. So when things break down, we make things, anything that's going on in our body uses water as kind of the place for that to happen. So we need water in our bodies. We also need a stable body temperature, and our body temperatures are 98.6, and it can vary some from 97 up to 99. Once you get above 100, 101, you start to have fever, which is a homeostatic imbalance. You're sick. If it gets too low, again, you're in danger if your body temperature goes too low. And the reason is temperature affects chemical reactions. It affects how efficient these chemical reactions can occur. So we want our body temperature to be normalized around 98.6 so that all of our stuff works at the best way. And we're going to talk about chemistry a little later on, and you'll understand a little bit more about chemical reactions. We also need the correct atmospheric pressure. So we basically need the right amount of oxygen and pressure in the air so that we can breathe in. If we don't have the correct atmospheric pressure, then we can't breathe and we can't have gas exchange in our lungs. This is why we can't live on Mars or the moon without, without being in some kind of a spacesuit. We have to have the correct atmospheric pressure. Now, once you have those 5 things to survive, you have those things so that now you can actually function. So once you have those 5 survival needs, then you can now do these 8 functions that your body must do. So a normal living person can do all of these 8 functions. The first thing is boundaries. We have to maintain boundaries. And I'm not talking about just a boundary of your skin. So that is a boundary. So between me and the outside world, my skin is the boundary of me versus the world. But we also have to have boundaries between cells, and those are called plasma membranes. Each organ has a boundary. If you took out a heart, you would know what a heart looked like. It has a different shape than a lung. It has boundaries, so you can tell one organ from the next. So we need those boundaries. We also need movement or contractility. And so we need movement literally to move, like skeletal muscle allows us to walk. And I'm using my muscles to move my mouth, and I'm using my hands. So we have movement. But we also need movement throughout our bodies. So for example, cardiac muscle, the heart, moves the blood. And you have smooth muscle anywhere there's a tube. So for example, your digestive system's moving food through your digestive system. So you have to have movement. You also need responsiveness. Okay, that's the ability basically to respond to a stimulus. So for example, the withdrawal reflex. So say you take your hand, you put it on something hot, you feel pain, you withdraw your hand. You responded to a stimuli. If you can also respond to maybe needing to breathe more. So maybe you're running and you need to be exchanging gases at a more efficient rate. So you start to breathe faster and harder, or maybe your heart starts to pump. So we can respond to things. So either withdraw something from a painful reflex, or our heart rate goes up, Or even if it's hot outside, you start to sweat. You respond to the environment by sweating. Your body temperature goes up and you sweat. We also need to be able to digest stuff, and that means that you take food in, and then break it down. So once you break it down, you can absorb it into your blood so that you can carry it throughout your body so that your body can use it. So digestion. You also need metabolism, and metabolism is a fancy word for just the chemical reactions that your body's doing all day long. This is just an example of what one would look like chemically. We haven't had chemistry yet, so we'll talk about that a little later. But in general, we have two different types of reactions. We have the reactions that break stuff down. Those are called catabolic. And we have the reactions that make stuff, and we call that anabolic. So we have anabolism and catabolism. And so you may have heard the word anabolic with anabolic steroids. People take anabolic steroids when they're trying to bulk up when they're doing weightlifting. So anabolism is to make, catabolism is to break. We also need to get rid of stuff. So our bodies will produce waste products, toxic products, things that we need to get out of our bodies. And we have several different ways of getting things out of our bodies, the waste products. We can make urine, which helps us get rid of urea. When we breathe out, we blow out carbon dioxide. We don't want carbon dioxide building up in our blood. We want to get rid of that. And then feces is one of the ways we get rid of digestive waste. So those are some of the ways that we can get rid of stuff. You can also, when you sweat, you actually get rid of some stuff when you sweat as well. We need reproduction. We need to be able to basically make copies of things or to reproduce. So the obvious one is offspring. Yes, we know we need to be able to make babies. So males and females get together, you make a baby. But we also need that day-to-day cellular division, that growth and repair. So we need to be able to reproduce our cells so that if you cut yourself, you can build more skin cells. As you're going through your growth period, you want to make more bone cells, more muscle cells, more skin cells so that you can get bigger. So reproduction of cells and tissues, and also offspring. We also need to grow. Okay, so everything starts at a small point. Humans or sperm and an egg is the beginning, and then basically it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as it grows. So throughout gestation or through pregnancy, and then childhood and adolescence and adulthood, the entire organism gets bigger, the organs get bigger, so things need to be able to grow. So those are all of your survival needs and your life functions. So just take a little while to study that. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video.